The Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. Alrighty then, let's get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. And I'm just super pleased that you are here. I'm in my red today because I am recording this around Valentine's Day. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about Valentine's Day, but in a leadership type of way. So, typically Valentine's Day is about cards or flowers and romance. In fact, funny story, at Christmas time, I was going through some stuff and I found a Valentine's Day card that I bought for my husband last Valentine's Day and I never gave it to him. So I gave it to him at Christmas time. I thought it was funny. He didn't really comment. But anyway, so Valentine's Day, right? It's typically about cards, flowers, romance, all those things. But today I want to talk a little bit about a different kind of love. And this is the kind that actually belongs in leadership because this is a lesson that it took me a long time to learn, but strong leaders don't lead without care. Caring leaders don't lower the bar. So I was so honored to have had an amazing mentor, boss, friend. He still is, but he was the president of the company when I first started there. And he taught me so much. His name is Clark Wangard. And he taught me so much when it comes to caring for your employees and your leadership. One of my colleagues, her husband had had a heart attack, and she was traveling. He got her home. He rented a limo or a car service to pick her up at the O'Hare Airport, drive her to the hospital to get to her husband as quickly as possible. Who does that? What president of an organization does that? Now we had a couple hundred people as employees. Like he went out of his way every chance he could. Now, it took me personally a long time to learn that. So I really want to share this message because it's so important. And I don't want you to wait as long as I did and hurt some of your relationships the way that I did and have to recover because was um, I was just driven that to work. That was like, if you go to work, you are there to work. So that I just today we're going to talk about that tension, right? And how do we balance both of those? Because that's when you become the best leader ever, is when you can balance both of those. So, hi, I'm Melissa McCormick. I am the host of Top Floor Please podcast. And I once planned to argue cases in a courtroom. That's what I wanted to do. Instead, today, I help stop leaders from arguing with their calendar. I traded that courtroom for the boardroom so that overwhelmed business owners and leaders can get out of the weeds, get out of that day to day. They can communicate clearly, strengthen their teams. I'm all about building strong teams and get their time back. That is so critical so that they can then lead the way that they were born to lead, right? The business doesn't, they are running the business instead of the business running them. So, all right, today we're going to talk about love in leadership, right? Many leaders, especially women, I've found, wrestle with this particular question. And that is, how do I care about my people without being taken advantage of? How do I support my team without becoming responsible for everything? Like how do I do this so that they still know I'm the boss, right? Yeah. Well, this was, as I mentioned earlier, this was the problem that I had early in my career. Like from day one, I got a job and I was there to work 100% of the time, 110, give my 110% effort. And I wasn't there to small talk. I wasn't there. I mean, this sounds bad because I feel like this is a confession and it's really not because maybe you resonate with this, right? You have a job to do, but yet you're looking around the office and people are chit-chatting. It used to drive me crazy. I'll give you an example. I was pregnant with my daughter, Amanda, and just as typical, you're going to announce it about 13, 14 weeks after, right? When you're about 13, 14 weeks, want to be sure that everything's sticking. And so I did that with Amanda, and I was making a copy at the copy machine, and I'm making a copy, and this woman comes up to me and she touches my stomach. She did not have permission. Now, I'm 13 weeks pregnant. I don't even have a bump, right? I'm 26 years old. Oh no, I was older than that. I was 30 years old. Anyway, she touches my stomach and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like I like kind of went backwards. She goes, "Oh, I just wanted to congratulate you. I'm so excited." Okay. Still my abdomen. You do not touch my stomach without permission. Like if I were 9 months pregnant, maybe, but I wasn't. You don't go up to somebody and touch, right? So that was me. And so because of that, when I was pregnant with my son, I didn't tell anybody until I was 6 months pregnant. Like my best friend knew it, my boss knew it. That was it. Now, gratefully, I was able to keep it under wraps until I was 6 months, but I didn't want it was nobody's business, right? And I know everybody's heart was in the right place and they just wanted to be happy for me. I know that. I was uncomfortable talking about it because it didn't impact my work. I was there to do a job. I learned a lesson. I grew. I grew to uncover my authentic leadership style and what it was, and how I could still connect with my team that they wanted me to connect with, right? So if you're like me, if you have that feeling that, look, I have a job to do and I just want us all to do the job. Like I'm okay with somebody saying, "Hey, how was your weekend?" "Yeah, it was great." And then move on. Okay, that's fine. If you're like me, I just want you to know that your team and your colleagues, they just want to know more about you. You don't have to share all the nitty-gritty details and overshare and all of that, right? You don't have to do all of that. But opening up just a bit is going being able to bring your whole self to work really is going to give you a freedom that you didn't know that you needed either. So I've got I dedicated a lesson in my book, lesson 2, connections and sense of belonging, which is so important. It made the book, right? So I have a ton of leadership lessons. There's 12 in this book. This one was so important, it made the book. It made the top 12. And it was a difficult lesson for me to learn, but one that I did learn and one that I embraced and one that I want to be sure everybody else learns and don't go years after years after years because you're going to have so much more fun once you connect with your people. And that means your direct reports if you have them or your colleagues as well. So sense of belonging, this is the heading of it. Um, Actually, I want to go up a little bit. So, making connections in leadership. So, it says, I wrote, connections and leaderships are the backbone of strong leadership. Paul, so this is based on Paul from the Bible, he shows us that the importance of connections and building relationships the same way he learned through Jesus. Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so that's the basics or the foundation of what I'm talking about here. So now I want to talk just a little bit about science and some stats or some research that's been done to show how this sense of belonging helps you and your team get more done faster and better, right? And builds stronger relationships. So Allen and Kearns, this is a 2019 study. They state that most people have a deep desire to connect with others. We long to feel valued and supported, and we long to share our thoughts, emotions, and life with others, even in the workplace. I added the last part, even in the workplace. But that's what's happening here. So knowing employees on a personal level creates this sense of belonging and it builds Trust. Most people want a sense of belonging in the workplace, a place where they feel part of a group that promotes a culture of inclusion at all levels of the organization. Building a sense of belonging increases employee engagement, which directly correlates to an increase in financial performance. Now, you don't do it because we want to increase our financial performance. That is an outcome of doing it, in addition to absolutely other outcomes as well. You're having fun, it's employee engagement, you don't have turnover, so you don't have all of that craziness going on. It saves you time, saves you money, and you have more fun. You love these people, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Um, so let's see, where did I want to go here? Yeah. The human side of the boss. Like, why is it important for the boss to bring their human side to work? Most employees want the boss to open up and bring their whole self to work. I didn't realize that until later in my, like, probably mid-career. Um, it might even have been the latter part of my career, I guess, maybe the last third, which is sad to say. The isolation creates barriers between employees and the boss, which reduces communication, and it creates this um, hierarchy that's difficult to remove. They say it's lonely at the top, and that is true, but it doesn't have to be, right? You don't have to be their best friend, but show genuine interest. And so what ends up happening is some leaders end up softening their feedback. They avoid hard conversations. They carry this emotional weight that isn't theirs. That's not what I'm talking about. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you still have the feedback, right? But it's grace and salt feedback. If you don't have a copy of my book, you can tell I'm like I use this book all the time. But if you don't have a copy of my book, go to Amazon, search Grace and Salt Leadership, you'll find it. And we go through this. There's a lot of lessons in here. Reach out to me. I'll send you a copy, whatever. Um, anyway, don't soften. It's all about your approach. So if you have feedback that you have to give to somebody, but you're trying to connect, you're trying to create this sense of belonging, you don't pussyfoot around it. You still have the feedback. It's just changing your approach, wrapping it in grace, knowing how the other person is going to respond or anticipating how that other person is going to respond, and then adjusting your approach to that other person. We talk about DISC all the time. If you're interested in the DISC methodology, contact me. I would love to introduce DISC to you, to your organization, to your team. I've had such success helping leaders become better and stronger leaders, but also helping teams connect. So it's just, ah, it is, to me, it's the secret to world peace is understanding others, listening, right? God gave us two ears and one mouth, and we should use it in that proportion. So anyway, I got off on a tangent there, and but I want you to know what healthy leadership care looks like. Here's what it looks like. So caring leadership isn't about being liked. Okay, it's not about being their best friend. It's about being invested. Healthy leadership sounds like this. It's I want you to succeed, and here's what needs to change. I believe in you enough, so I'm going to be honest. I won't rescue you, but I will support your growth. How can we do that together? Care shows up as clarity, boundaries, consistency, and those kind of in a paradoxical kind of way, those are the things that make people feel safest. Structure, right? Knowing and knowing these are my responsibilities and this is what my authority is and this is how I am empowered. And if I have a problem, like my daughter is, maybe you've got children at home and whatever that might look like, and you might just need to talk. Let them talk. Let them talk, right? As we think about all of this, it comes down to one word that is a strong, strong word, and that is trust. Trust is the real Valentine's gift. Trust is built when people know what's expected, where they stand. That feedback is about growth, not punishment. When leaders avoid discomfort in the name of kindness, in the name of being nice, that trust it erodes because the other person is like, I get the feeling, I get the feeling you want to say more, but they don't feel comfortable saying that. So they get through the conversation, they leave, and they're like, that was weird. You need to lead with clarity and care. That trust deepens. So I mentioned Clark earlier in this conversation, and he was an amazing president, but I tell you what, he was tough. You didn't go into his office with a problem unless you had a solution. That was it. He would take his glasses and he'd put them down on his nose and he'd go, your point, right? He wanted, what's your point? Why are you telling me this? Does it bring value? Like he was a tough boss, but man, did that man care. And so we all followed him willingly, lovingly. Like he is still just so very important to me. So, excuse me. So when leaders avoid discomfort in that name of kindness, that trust, right? I'm repeating this on purpose. That trust erodes. Love is love in leadership is an emotional closeness, right? As I'm saying, it's not your best friend. It's that commitment to the standard and to the person. So here's just what I want you is kind of in these podcasts I'm always got something that I want you to think about. So today, Valentine's Day, this is dropping or being aired around Valentine's Day. I want you to ask yourself this. Where am I holding back feedback because I don't want to disappoint others? Where am I over functioning instead of letting someone else step up? What would caring leadership look like with boundaries? Because that real leadership care doesn't protect people from discomfort. It prepares them for growth. Like if you don't give it, you're robbing them of their future growth. Have you ever thought of it like that? Like it might be easier for you. Like it's the easiest way, easy way out. You're robbing them of their full potential. Okay. Okay, enough. Sometimes I feel like I get on my soapbox and I'm, preaching or whatever. And so here. So before we wrap up, I just want you to take one idea from today's episode and ask yourself this. Where is this showing up for me right now? Where is this showing up? Is there a certain person? What is my relationship like with my team or with my colleagues? I'm not saying, and again, I this lesson too on connections and creating sense of belonging. If you want the chapter, if you just want this chapter, I want you to DM me. Send me a note that says, Melissa, I just want lesson 2. I will send it to you in a PDF document free. There is so much good information here on how you can, if you were like me and you've got this wall between you and your team or you and your colleagues, how can you naturally break down that wall and start growing in your relationship with your coworkers and with your team and with your boss? It took a bit for me to do that. And so I have those tips and advice in here to do that. So if that resonates with you, send me a DM, send me an email. It's all, you can contact me. All that contact information is on the web at graceandsaltleadership.com. So I'm hoping that this lesson was resonated with you. If it did, please know that I work with leaders who are buried in that day to day, and I work with leaders who, quite frankly, need to break down those walls and build relationships and connections with their team. And so that we can stop the turnover, so that we can have more fun, so that we can improve our productivity, so that the business moves faster when we're building trust, so that we're doing all of those things. I help them simplify things. I help you get out of the weeds. I help you start running your business instead of the business running you. So if that sounds like who you are, you can resonate with that. Go to graceandsaltleadership.com, reach out to me and or one of my team members, and we'll schedule a time just to have a chat. No strings attached, just have a chat. So if this episode was helpful, I want you to share it with another leader. Share it with somebody that you know that's struggling with this. And then also be sure to follow or subscribe so that you don't miss what's next. Okay, everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. And until next time.
Thanks so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friends to keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to rise, find your voice, and lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out at graceandsaltleadership.com to learn how Grace and Salt can support your growth. Remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time on the top floor.